If you've been watching my YouTube channel for a long time now, I really appreciate it, first thing, but also you probably would have seen a huge change in me, in the content that I share, in my lifestyle, because the last 4 years for me have been hugely transformational. Some of the things that I'm now thinking about and now doing, I could never imagined I would ever be in this position. Actually, the last 4 years have changed my whole outlook on society, on the modern world, on humanity, and it's profound. It's really blowing my mind, some of these sort of revelations I seem to be having, and I thought I'd share some of them with you today quite candidly. There's no script, it's just sort of from the heart, and I think some of these things some of you may not agree with, and that's fine. Hopefully some of you will be inspired too, and I'm just gonna let it all out today in this video. Before I do that, this is one of my favorite herbs. This is mullein, and there's a few flowers that I can add to my tea here. So I think I should take it back to the start, really, my upbringing. I grew up in the city. I grew up in Cardiff, which is the capital of my home country of Wales. I had a very sort of typical upbringing, really. My parents worked so hard to provide and give me everything that I could desire. And at the time, like most kids in the 90s living in a city, the things I wanted were the latest console or the latest pair of football or rugby boots, because that was my passion. It was playing sport. I wanted to play rugby for my country of Wales, and that was my dream, that was my everything. So I'd look forward to the weekends of playing my game, and you know, I'd be always wanting the latest pair of football boots and or that console, that game. You know, these things would make me happy as a kid, like most kids living in the city, I guess. Nature didn't mean anything to me. I didn't really know what it was. The only time I sort of came into contact with nature was maybe a trip to the beach when I was on holiday, or smelling the mud on my shirt after playing a game of rugby or football. That was like, oh, that's what the earth smells like. And you know, I'd be walking to school in the winter time or the summertime. Seasons didn't really mean anything to me. It was just like, oh, it's raining today, or it's sunny, I like the summer. I had no sort of understanding of the natural world or connection whatsoever, and my dreams of playing rugby sort of fizzled out when I didn't grow in high school. And thankfully I had another passion, which was cooking. That led me to honing in on my craft in school and cooking for my parents at home. And when I was able to get a part-time job at a restaurant, I did so. So at age 15, I was working in kitchens after school to learn as much as I could, because I wanted to be a chef. At 16, when I could actually leave school, which seems to me now crazily young, I went into it. I went fully into the life of a chef. So I quit school and I went into the industry, and I was working 80-hour weeks, soaking up as much knowledge as I can from the chefs around me and trying to be the best chef possible. I had dreams of getting a Michelin star and following in the footsteps of my heroes at the time, Marco Pierre White and Gordon Ramsay and all the chefs that I watched on TV. And I was in that lifestyle for many years. Again, in the cities, no connection to nature. Even some of the restaurants, they didn't even have natural light in them, you know, so I was so disconnected. And at those times I was working so much, I didn't even have the outlet of playing a rugby or a football match and being on the grass. So I was very much immersed in city life. Any time that I had spare, it would be maybe a night out with the chefs or my old school friends. There was no connection to the natural world, but that didn't bother me at the time because I'm a city boy. I live in the city. It's nature is not something that you would even think about, I guess. I took some time out of the industry, and that's when I started this channel. That led me to move to London, even bigger city, and even more sort of chaotic at times. It's claustrophobic, it's busy, it's fast-paced. It's all the things that a modern city has. It's sometimes belittling when you're walking around these huge skyscrapers and big buildings. And I lived there, but I was sort of, I didn't think of anything else. I didn't think of anything different. I didn't think it was out of the unordinary. I thought that's just what you do, and I was lucky to live in London. I enjoyed it, and my time there, looking back, there were some fun moments. Cities offer convenience, they offer pleasure at your fingertips, they offer efficiency, and I enjoyed it. It was good. But what I'm realizing, looking back on my upbringing, living in cities, that when you're caught up in that lifestyle, when you're caught up in this fast-paced life in the city and having no connection, not even getting my feet on the ground at all, not even touching the earth, I was getting the symptoms of being disconnected. Looking back on it now, I feel like I had a nature deficiency. That's how I phrase it nowadays, because humans, I believe, having spent 4 years connecting to the earth through growing my food and foraging and herbalism and everything that I do nowadays, I realized how much I was disconnected. Humans should be intertwined with the natural world, and I was so disconnected from it for so long. So I was getting the symptoms of that deficiency, which I feel were stress, anxiety, depression at times. I was really feeling these things. I had many bouts of it, and looking back, I was offered the antidepressants, the beta blockers to calm my nerves and my anxiety. I didn't have that outlet to calm my mind. I feel sad that I didn't have that outlet, and nowadays I do. I have this sanctuary of a garden, or I have nature on my doorstep at my fingertips to make me feel good. Back when I was living in London, as I said, I was fully immersed in the city life, and COVID lockdowns came, and it was a scary time for so many of us. And I remember just being inside my apartment, my house, for like 50 days straight on my own. And then I really started feeling claustrophobic and disconnected, and not knowing when we were allowed to go out the house, not knowing where, when we can go to the supermarket, toilet roll running out, all this stuff. It sort of made me feel a little bit reliant on everything around me. That led me to thinking to myself, oh, if the toilet paper is running out, what if the food runs off the supermarket shelves? So when I had this thought, I thought, I must try and learn how to grow my own food. I spent about 3 months watching YouTube videos of how to grow food. That led me to thinking, I need to get out of the city. I need to have a bit of a garden to try and grow my own. And that's what I did. I actually looked online. I found the property where I'm at now for sale, and my lease was coming up to an end in London. I found that actually I'd be saving money on accommodation, leaving the city too, so it was sort of a win-win. Within a few days of moving into this place here, I'd built my first raised bed to grow food in. I sowed 100 seeds into it. I then realized that actually, you can't just sow so many seeds together. They need space, they need different environments. But one thing did survive, and that was some radishes. And I was so excited one morning to pick this juicy looking radish. I ran out of bed on a sunny spring morning and plucked out this radish and brushed off the dirt, and I looked at it and I thought, wow, I can grow my food. And I bit into this delicious radish, and I don't even think radishes are that delicious prior to this point, but it was so peppery and fresh, and it made me realize that yes, I can grow my food. And there was like a connection there, because for so long living in cities, despite being a chef, I really didn't necessarily think about where my food was coming from. I did when I was in the kitchens, but when I left, it was just the convenience factor of being able to get strawberries in the middle of winter in plastic packaging from who knows where in the world, sprayed with who knows what. I had that real life of convenience living in the city, and having grown these little radishes, I realized that no, it takes patience, it takes time, it takes nurture. Things are grown in seasons for a reason. They taste better and they're better for us. So that radish made me realize that I had to become as self-sufficient as possible. I had to learn how to grow my food. And the last 4 years, as I said at the start of this video, have been so profound on this journey of trying to grow more. It's opened up my mind to all these things that I was saying about the nature deficiency and all sorts. When you sow seeds into the dirt and you watch these plants grow and you nurture them, you have respect for them, you look after them like they're your babies. Eventually it gets time to harvest them and you enjoy them, and they're so delicious and they nourish you and your family. Eventually it's time to put their scraps on the compost pile, and you watch their scraps and any other organic matter from the garden break down and turn into soil that you can actually sow more seeds in the following year to grow food. And it's a beautiful cycle. It's not quite complete here just yet, unfortunately, because I'm not harvesting enough seeds myself. So basically I could let many of my plants grow to seed and I can harvest those seeds and I won't have to buy seeds. I do that with some plants. But I'm not there fully yet because I'd need a whole section of just seed-saving vegetables. And also it could be even more complete if I was harvesting my own waste. After all, I'm eating the food, I poop it out. That is fertilizer there. You know, in farming you use cow and horse manure and whatnot. We've stopped using our own. So I'll have a compost toilet on my future farm. It's not quite suitable where I'm at right here, and I'll be utilizing my own waste. Then that circle, that natural cycle will be perfect. That cycle is so pure, and it made me, even though it's so simple, it made me understand society on a deeper level. All the things that I thought were just normal, like a shirt made from polyester, or like a football shirt or a gym top, or, you know, just the clothing that I would wear on a daily basis made from polyester or other sort of synthetic fabrics. Nowadays, I'm actually trying to get rid of all of that stuff. I'm donating it to charity. I'm getting rid of it because that doesn't fit into that natural cycle. As I wander through my garden, if that shirt fell off and landed in the compost pile, that will never break down. That will add nothing to that natural cycle that I've talked about. So I'm looking at getting more natural fibers into the clothing that I wear. I buy secondhand clothing mainly nowadays to fit into that cycle, and it's natural materials. It's made me sort of try and shun these convenience products. It's made me shun buying things out of season. Everything from my kitchen cleaning products, I want to choose less harsh chemicals, more things made from natural ingredients. And we've done a whole video on those swaps that we've recently started making. They're a lot kinder to us. You know, there's nothing that's gonna interfere with our breathing, the sort of naturalness of us in the kitchen. So we've tried to make those swaps, and also then you save on plastic packaging, you're not buying it as much. Everything from the bedding, my cosmetics, all this stuff, I'm trying to think about it in that natural cycle. How does it fit in? If it doesn't fit in too well, I think of how can I get a more natural alternative. So when you think of everything in that natural way, your whole daily lifestyle changes, and my whole outlook on the way I used to live has changed. I look back on my life before moving here, and I was so disconnected, so disenfranchised. Even though I had this purpose of sharing what I do and my food to inspire people to cook at home through my YouTube channel, I was so disconnected. I was chasing after things that would give me short-term gratification, short-term thrills. In my early 20s, I would be going out drinking and partying with my friends because I thought that's what you did. I would get myself into all sorts of pickles and spend my day in bed hungover for many times, wasting my time and not having a sort of clear path. It was almost an escapism doing that kind of thing. And I did stop drinking, and then I took up weight training. I was sort of there at the gym far too much really. As much as that helped my mind and gave me that escapism for some time, and seeing my muscles in the mirror made me feel good, but it was just sort of, it was trying to fill a hole. It really was. And you're like a hamster in a wheel in a gym. It's like gyms have popped up everywhere nowadays in the cities, because it's sort of a cure to the disconnection living in a city, really, isn't it? It's like, oh, here's a man-made way to get your heart rate up. And I know these things are so helpful nowadays, and particularly when I was in my sort of stressed, anxious, depressed times, the gym was a savior for me. So I understand it's there, but I actually could have just gone for a walk in the woods, or gone out of the city for some time and reconnected with the world, or even just gone to a local park. But this whole journey has made me realize how actually disconnected as a society we are. I was thinking even life after death in the modern world, like even after we pass, our bodies aren't even given back to the earth in a natural way. You know, we're either put in a casket that's treated, you know, it's timber, wood that's treated so it doesn't break down, or in a concrete or a metal casket. It's a shame that even after we pass, our bodies can't go back to the earth like they're supposed to, where we actually fertilize the ground. Sowing seeds has made me think about all of these things, and I never thought I'd be thinking about this stuff. When I go to cities nowadays, I feel like a fish out of water. I go to a shopping mall and you know, not seeing a plant and anything natural in sight, it makes me feel sad. It really does. Now, even though I didn't have this mindset back when I lived in the cities and would frequent malls all the time, or shopping centres, it didn't have the same effect on me. I didn't think about it at the time, but maybe psychologically, not being around nature was putting me in bad stead and making me feel stressed and anxious and all this stuff. I started looking outward after learning to grow my food, and I started looking around at the world around me and the plants that grew native in the hedgerows, because I spent a lot of time in Jamaica and Mexico, and the locals there would tell me what the plants just growing like weeds would do for them, whether they'd be good for fever or headaches or colds or sickness. And I was thinking at the time, when I wasn't as sort of aware of the native plants around me, I thought, oh, I wish we had that back in Wales, where I'm from. And of course we do. It just took me a little bit of research and learning and books and videos to figure out that many of the plants around the crops that I grow are so good for us, whether they healed us over the years. Some of them have clothed us, some of us have nurtured us and nourished us. I've gotten into foraging and looking at these free edibles and free medicine. That has given me the most amazing grounding and purpose that I can never ever imagine be a thing. You know, who would have thought that learning about native plants would give me so much wisdom? But each time I learn about a new plant that just grows like a weed around me, or in the hedgerow or in the woodland, I feel more grounded and more whole, like a human should do. Some of these plants have stories that would blow your mind, and each time I learn about them, it makes me feel so good. I'm so grateful to have this knowledge. But there was a missing link somewhere in the Western world, here in Wales. There was a missing link between that knowledge getting down to me, and it's a shame. And I want to make it my mission now and my duty to educate the next generation. I'm having a baby soon, and I can't wait to share this knowledge with her, and also utilize my platform and my presence online to share these stories and this newfound passion for everything natural and the wisdom that the plants have. I'm having to take breaks every minute or so, because it's coming out like a bit of a rant, a bit of a word salad. So I do apologise. I'm trying to articulate this as best as I can. I think I need to acknowledge that not everyone can just leave the city and move out to the country and start growing food and be on this journey like I have been on. I know when I was working 80-hour weeks in restaurant kitchens, I would never have been able to reconnect or grow food There probably would have been subtle things that I could have done to help my mindset at the time, but you know, not everyone has that ability to work remotely or move when they want to as freely. So I have to acknowledge that, and I'm very grateful for the ability to be able to have these profound thoughts and reconnect. I do find the contrast to growing up in the cities and being so disconnected to now sort of downloading all of this newfound connection and teachings. It's quite jarring to sort of process it, because I think back to myself, although I had, you know, amazing parents that did everything they could for me, I do find a level of just, oh damn, I wish I learnt more about this connection early on, or even in my sort of early 20s. I wish I didn't spend those times, you know, chasing after materialistic things that don't bring you actually that deep happiness. I wish I had a guide or a role model that could help me find this stuff. And nowadays I think that's the issue with society, is that all our role models that you see online or on TV it's all stuff to distract us or to take us away from what makes us feel whole, and that's the natural world. It's all stuff that makes us want to spend money, and then when you're spending money you're having to work harder, and then you have as little time to enjoy this natural world that we have at our fingertips. You get caught up in that cycle, that trap, and I was in it for so long. I think I should give some advice to maybe people that can or want to try and become a bit more self-sufficient and are sick of being in that cycle. Not everyone, as I say, can leave a 9-to-5 job or work remotely and move out. There's ways in which you can be self-sufficient, and you can be on what I now feel is a silent revolution. Obviously, our money is our votes, and if we continue to vote with our money to these systems that keep us in this entrapment, they will forever be strong. And you know, people talk about plastic issues and things like that. I understand that we can make more rational choices about not choosing single-use plastics in our daily lives, but really it's the big corporations that have the power. They could stop it right now if we stopped consuming it. I think that people who want to become a little bit more self-sufficient could start off with just cooking for themselves. We spend a lot of money, especially people living in the city, including I when I lived there, on things like Deliveroo or Uber Eats, there's DoorDash in America. These businesses are huge. It's because we're spending money with them. We don't even want to go out the house nowadays, or we don't have time to go out the house to get our food or eat out at dinner. And you know, we're so drawn to convenience. If we started cooking for ourselves, we will see the ingredients that go into our meals. When we cook for ourselves, we only make healthier, more nourishing food that makes us feel good and gives us that mental clarity. It also is a form of meditation, cooking. We've always done it. You know, since humans have been around, we've cooked for ourselves. This is very modern for us to go out and like outsource cooking or our food. And when you start cooking for yourself, you have more respect for where the food comes from. I guess you're going to make better choices on where you're getting your ingredients from. Maybe you'll start eating more seasonally or organic, or you may think to yourself, oh, I'm going to actually go out to a farmer's market or go to a local fruit and veg market and get your food, and you'll have more of a connection to where it's grown. That will make you feel good. And then when you cook for yourself, that I feel is a form of self-sufficiency. You're taking back power, you're taking back control. If you want to start growing, I have this deep regret that when I was in London, I didn't grow on my small balcony that I had. It was south facing, it wasn't big, but I could have grown a ton of food to sustain myself. I thought that I needed a big garden to grow food. I didn't necessarily. I could have grown something. You can grow at least just one thing. We all have house plants at home nowadays. House plants are more harder to look after. They're more petulant. They're like little needy kids, house plants. You give them everything that they could ever want and they'll still end up dying on you. Fruits and veg like tomatoes, they just want to grow. You'll see them if you're even in the cities, in the side of a gully, just growing where a bird may have eaten a tomato and pooped out a tomato seed, and suddenly there's a tomato plant growing in the gutter of the roadside. You know, they want to grow. So you could have a few tomato plants in front of a sunny window or on a balcony or outside your front door. And, you know, you could even utilize a windowsill to grow some salad. It takes such little effort, but at least then you don't have to go and buy salad wrapped in plastic that, you know, could be inorganic and sprayed with harmful stuff, and it will save you money in the process of doing it. Herbs too on a windowsill. And if you want to take it to the next level, in the UK we have things called allotments where you would pay £100 a year. £100 a year is like one weekly shop nowadays. £100 a year to have a slice of land that you can grow food on, and you can get experience from all the amazing growers that have been doing it for so long on the allotment, and they can help teach you, and you can watch YouTube to learn how to do it. You can stop watching Netflix and turn your entertainment to watching sort of how to grow food. The resource is there. Allotments are great, and you could be then growing your own and bringing home fresh, bountiful harvests for yourself and your family to enjoy. Or if you don't have as much time, you can join community growing spaces nowadays where you can just donate some of your time. You can offer small donations and then take home and give as much or as little effort and time as you can afford, and you'll be able to take home really good organic food, and you can meet like-minded people while you're there. And that could just be half an hour every other evening or a day on the weekend, but I promise you that day or that half an hour, you will look forward to that more than anything else in your hobbies or your weekly schedule. That's the thing about reconnecting and growing food and being present and being intertwined with nature. It actually becomes your entertainment. I no longer have to outsource my entertainment. I no longer have to go out drinking and feel like that is the only form of entertainment, or go to the gym, or go do meaningless tasks, or you know, find my entertainment through shopping for materialistic things. Nowadays, entertainment comes from growing food, or being self-sufficient, or processing my harvest, or cooking for myself, or getting into the native plants, foraging wild foods and herbalism, and processing them and put them into my little apothecary. All this stuff brings me entertainment, and all this doing all those things, I save money. It's amazing. Failing all of that, you could just grow mushrooms in your bathroom, believe it or not. Mushrooms can grow, oyster mushrooms in buckets in your bathroom. They like the humidity. It's a bit weird getting out of the shower and seeing mushrooms growing, but they actually will feed you, and the cost saving's crazy because oyster mushrooms cost a fortune at the supermarket, but it's an ongoing cycle. Once you make that initial investment, you'll never have to buy mushroom spawn again. Maybe you'll just need to pick up some substrate, which is just wood shavings or sawdust. I made a whole video on how to grow mushrooms at home recently, and it's an amazing thing to get you captivated by growing. I never would have thought a few years ago that I would be talking about all this stuff and be so passionate about sharing it. I think there's so much power in just, even if you do live in a city, and I wish I utilised this when I lived there, but just going out to the local park and just taking your shoes off and trying to hear the birds and having your feet on the ground. There's actually a chemical within soil. It's a bacteria actually that acts like a natural antidepressant. I can't remember the Latin name of this bacteria. It's lactobacillus something or another. You'll have to just Google it, but it actually acts like a natural antidepressant. Now, if that's not a sign to know that us humans should be coming into contact with nature on a daily basis, I don't know what is. These concrete jungles that we're now almost sort of forced to live in because that's where the efficiency is, that's where the jobs are. It doesn't it doesn't make us happy, unfortunately. Now, this is just all my opinions, of course. But if I can encourage you guys to go out and take your shoes off, get your skin on the ground, or get your hands in some soil, or even hug a tree, I would be happy. And I can't believe, as I said, I would be telling people to hug trees, but it brings me happiness when I'm connected like that. Growing food has so much power. These herbs that I learn about blow my mind. Things like, this yarrow growing around me. And I've got a whole video talking about plants that you should grow at home or you should forage to utilize for their medicinal benefits. But yarrow, the wisdom of yarrow is amazing. It's nature's plaster. I will often cut myself in the garden, and the first thing I would do would pick some yarrow that I can just see growing around me right now and make a little poultice, which means crush it up in your hand and just apply it to the wound. And it has a compound in it that will stop you bleeding. And the Latin name is Achillea, named after the Greek warrior Achilles, because he knew the power of yarrow and would take it onto the battlefield and would give it to his men in battle and to help their wounds heal faster. In folklore too, in this part of the world, women would actually put yarrow leaves under their pillow to help them manifest a dream partner. And just hearing these stories makes me connect to like the people before me. There's things like chicken of the woods that I've recently foraged and shared a recipe for on my YouTube. The story goes that the forest gods, I'm talking about like thousands of years ago here in the UK, pre-Christianity, pre-Roman times, in folklore, when we had, I feel like, more of a connection to the natural world. But these forest gods would take pity on the people living around the forest during times of scarcity, when there was no meat or food around, and they would gift them this mighty mushroom, this mushroom called chicken of the woods, that actually had the taste and the texture of meat. It has a similar taste to like roast chicken when it's cooked. It's crazy, and actually has so much protein for a mushroom and nutrients, and it would be given to them in signs of scarcity, and they would be fulfilled and they would be able to preserve it like I've done. I've now gone out and foraged this mushroom and poached it and put it in my freezer, and it will feed my family and I for many, many months to come, and I no longer have to go to the supermarket to buy, tofu or something like that. It's an amazing feeling to walk the footsteps of the people before me, and I never had that grounding. I never had any of this knowledge. All of this stuff is stuff that I've recently learned in the last few years since sowing my first seeds. And that makes me feel so whole. It makes me feel resilient. It makes me feel grounded and purposeful. And those symptoms of nature deficiency that I once had when I was feeling anxious and stressed and depressed have pretty much vanished. If I'm ever feeling down, if I'm ever feeling stressed with the work, I'm still connected to this modern world through the videos that I make, and it takes a lot to produce the content that I make. I'm still caught up in it. If I'm ever feeling stressed, the gardens here is at my sanctuary. Just 30 minutes in the evening, I feel great after it. My dad was recently in hospital, and it was the hardest time of our lives, and between visiting hours, I would be spent in the garden. I took some time out of work and I just got my hands in the soil, and I did jobs out here, and that was enough to fill up my cup and have the power to be able to go into hospital and see my dad in a bad way. Thankfully, he is feeling so much better now, and we're so grateful to have him. And even now, the garden is actually helping heal my dad. My dad had these big lung accident and issue in hospital, and now I'll reach for that mullein plant and I'll gather mullein. That's also known as the lung herb, and it's really good for the respiratory system. So nowadays I've dried that mullein, I give it to my dad, and he's drinking that often to help his lungs finish off healing. And to know that wisdom, to know that the plants have the power, I'm so grateful. It makes me feel so connected, and I hope that my videos and my content and what I have to say to you guys today will help you connect too. Nature's there for us. It's healed us, it's clothed us, it's nurtured us for so long. and we're not disconnected. We don't have to be. We can connect, okay? So think about your lifestyle and what will make you happy. If nature's there for you, if it will make you happy, then please chase it. It's changed my whole outlook, as you can tell. I hope this hasn't come out like a crazy word boggle, but I'm very passionate, as you can see, and I hope as I get older and wiser and I learn more, I'm able to put my thoughts and feelings into a better articulated manner. I just had to run in and get this book. Just to finish off this video, I wanted to touch on a few of my future plans. But I just had a thought as the sun came out now, and I'm watching all these beautiful butterflies and bees around in my garden, and I noticed that, you know, right now we're in the height of summer, and this is the time where I'm harvesting so much food and it's so abundant. And I think back to when I was disconnected from the seasons as a kid and throughout my lifestyle. You know, now the seasons mean so much more to me. They have such an impact on my life, which should only be the case when you're human, because you should be so intertwined with it. You know, in the winter time, that's the time actually. As much as I, you know, don't like the cold, I'm embracing it more, and I now understand that that's a time for calm. It's about resetting. It's about maybe just resting a little. And then I'm always looking forward so much to spring, where it's time to sow seeds for the food that I grow, and, you know, seeing the flowers bloom and everything sort of come to life. Actually, that's when I feel like I come to life. I reckon the new year, really, like in the Iranian calendar actually, or the Persian calendar, is like the 28th of March, I believe, is the start of the new year. That's when I feel like I come to life myself. And then summer comes, and it's like it is now, and it's so abundant and it's glorious and joyous. And then autumn is amazing too, when the leaves fall and mushrooms start to appear, and I can go out foraging. So I've got this real appreciation for the natural cycles now, and I feel so intertwined with it, which is great, all adding into that cup of feeling very purposeful and grounded. And I say that the only other time I would look up at the moon previously would be maybe if I was sadly falling out of a nightclub drunk, you know, and thinking, oh, it's bright today. And that was such a shame that I would only acknowledge it when I was maybe staying out past my bedtime. But now the moon actually means so much to me, and I'll do a whole video on this on YouTube in the future, but I actually sow my seeds in line with the moon cycles nowadays, and it's an ancient practice done by cultures and farmers all around the world. But I've noticed huge plant growth and more abundance since sowing seeds in line with the moon cycles. Again, that just makes you feel more human when you're looking up at the moon and feeling that connection, or using it as a calendar to grow food. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be connected to. Now, for my future plans, I want to throw myself more so into this sort of natural way of living that will extend to the home that I live in. I talked about a compost toilet at the start of this video. That won't be a novelty. That will be something that, you know, I need. I want to live off grid. I want to live in that cycle as best as I can. Now, obviously, I don't want to go back. I don't want to live like a caveman, but, you know, I want to live as in tune and as tread lightly as possible on this planet as I can. So that would be having my main toilet as a compost toilet, but also the home that I live in. So many of our modern buildings are kind of anti-human. They don't make us feel good. These tall structures, these big intimidating buildings that you find in cities aren't good for our psyche, but also the homes that we live in, they're made with such industrial materials now that are so cheap and quick to produce that they actually don't think of how they make us feel or the negative impact on our health that these materials actually have on us. So my plan is to utilize sort of ancient building practices that would have been used all around the world, and it's building homes with something called cob. This is the clay or the mud beneath our feet. Historically, we'd have built our homes with natural materials, and it would have cost so little to build our homes. We would have done it ourselves. And that's my plan, and that's why I'm reading this book, The Hand Sculpted House. There's a whole movement of people rediscovering this way of building, because a modern building, a modern home, when it crumbles to the ground in a few hundred years, it's leaving behind so many toxic and forever lasting materials like plastics that won't decompose. But the beauty of a cob home, an earth home, when it falls to the ground in thousands of years' time, if looked after, it's not going to leave a horrible footprint. It's going to decompose and give back to the earth. Just like when my compost, when I don't flush, but when I give my waste back to the earth, it's not going to end up in a river or the sea. It's going to give back to the soil wherever it's left, or I'll give it back to the plants that I grow, and it will help grow abundant food. But as I look into this way of building, I read this beautiful book. This is it. I recommend everyone getting it. And it sort of just made me realize how disconnected I was, and many of my friends, and I guess most of society is nowadays. And it's talking about the difference between peasants and farmers in Mexico historically. Just to give you a bit of context, farmers were seen to be the rich people, the affluent people of society. They were making money from their land. But the difference between peasants and farmers: peasants satisfy their own basic needs. They grow their food, build their houses they live in, often make their own clothes. Peasants collect medicinal herbs and treat medicinal emergencies and ailments at home. They supply their family entertainment. They experience fully what they do, and they have time, they feel joy. Their culture is integral and it makes sense. These are all the things that I find so much happiness in nowadays. I'm not saying I'm giving up modern medicine, of course. Herbalism is prevention over cure. It's about treating minor ailments at home. So I'm not going to be treating, I'm just going to say this, emergencies at home. Anyway, farmers, on the other hand, by contrast, they grow food to sell. With what they earn, they buy their products, they buy groceries, they buy their building materials, their clothes, their entertainment and medical insurance. They must also buy into a system that demands they drive to the market, they pay taxes, perhaps send their kids to agricultural college. Increasingly, they must buy machinery, seeds and farm chemicals. Farmers have no time to directly enjoy satisfying their own needs, so they purchase their satisfactions. They buy ready-made clothing and convenience foods. I was a farmer for so long before I actually even grew food. I would work so hard to then buy food, buy convenience things, buy clothing, outsource my happiness through cheap thrills and entertainment. So all of my paycheck was just being outsourced on things rather than doing it myself. And it was keeping me trapped in that cycle. So nowadays, I want to go back to being more like the peasant, where I make things, I do things for myself so that I don't have to buy into the system as much, keeping me trapped in this cycle. So going forward, to caveat again, my future plans are to be totally off-grid. I want to hopefully get my hands on some land, some actual land, some acres. I want to hopefully get some old pasture land that was used and abused here in Wales for so long by industrial farming. I want to rewild that land and bring back nature and grow tons of food. I want to build my house, my cob house, myself with the help of community around me. I want it will probably cost me as well, particularly if I'm using reclaimed windows and doors and things like that. It will probably cost me just a few thousands of pounds if this book is factual and all the research I'm doing is correct. it will be built with the land, with the things on my land, like the wood, the trees, fallen trees, things like that, and reclaimed doors and windows and the earth beneath my feet. I plan on creating a proper garden, a market garden. This is just a trial here. This is me learning. But on this land, I hope to grow enough food that will sustain my family completely. Like 80 to 90% of the food that I eat, I would hope would come from my land. I will also use this land to teach and to bring local children and the community and you guys to come down to learn how to grow, learn how to cook, learn how to forage, to connect with nature, and we will hopefully build enough little tiny cob houses where you guys to come and stay, and we can cook for you. And you know, my partner Tegan is also so aligned with this stuff. She's actually a natural retreat chef herself, or used to do that, and we would love to cook for people in the wildflower meadows and romanticize life and show how beautiful nature is. I hope that community that we create there and this rewilding and retreats that we do will help inspire the next generation and help them connect, and also fill up my cup and feel like I'm making a difference. So that's my future plans. I know this has been a bit of a long-winded video, but I just wanted to get all this out there. I think it's important to get your feelings and your thoughts out there so that you can open up communication and share beliefs and learn from one another. So much of the world nowadays is chaos and people at each other's throats, and one person believes this, one person believes this, and then suddenly you can't have like a communication. But we're all human at the end of the day, so we all want the same things, and I feel that's purpose, that's completeness, and that's wholeness. And I feel like the keys for that is out there in nature. We just need to reconnect and access it. So on that bombshell, thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope that some of what I say is inspiring. I may look back on this in 4, 5, 6, 10 years time and think, oh gosh, he was so naive, or he was so innocent. You know, I'm hoping my thoughts expand. The more I do research, the more I find books that help me on this journey. And that's the thing I want to share, I think, at the end of this. There's information out there. You've got YouTube, you've got amazing books on herbalism, on foraging, on how to grow food. There's amazing growers that taught me how to grow my food just from YouTube. Off the top of my head, Hugh Richards, Charles Dowding, Moth and Alley, Rish Gala, Jack's Patch, Suburban Homestead. There's so many people out there on YouTube that can teach you these things, and they've taught me, and they've made me have all these profound feelings ever since growing my own. So thank you again, and I'll see you soon in the future. We can breathe now. Rant over.